As the conflict spread across Nigeria's northeast, its shockwaves reached far beyond the country's borders. The movement that began in a single mosque had become a transnational force affecting millions of lives in the Lake Chad region. Entire communities were uprooted. Markets that once connected Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon fell silent. Where fishing boats had once dotted the lake, only wreckage remained. The region's governments soon realized that this was no longer one nation's struggle. In 2015, Nigeria, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon joined forces to form the Multinational Joint Task Force. The alliance brought new energy to the fight. Coordinated air and ground operations pushed the group out of major towns. Villages that had been under its control for months were gradually retaken. Flags once representing fear were removed and replaced with national colors. For a moment, it seemed as though the tide was turning. The Nigerian army reported victories across Borno State. Journalists documented residents returning to what was left of their homes, sweeping sand and ash from the doorways, trying to begin again. But peace in the northeast remained fragile. As soon as one area was secured, attacks began in another. The group no longer needed to hold territory to create instability. It only needed to appear, reminding people that safety was never guaranteed. When the movement lost ground on open battlefields, it retreated into the shadows. Fighters blended in with displaced populations, using disguise and deception. They targeted markets, bus stops, and community gatherings, then disappeared before troops could respond. The conflict shifted from one of territory to one of patience and endurance. As the world focused on other crises, the situation continued to evolve. In 2016, deep internal divisions emerged. Disagreements over leadership, tactics, and treatment of civilians split the group into two major factions. Abubakar Shekau retained command of one branch, while the other, led by Abu Musab al-Barnawi, son of the late founder Muhammad Yusuf, aligned more closely with the Islamic State. To outsiders, it appeared as a single entity, but in reality, it had become two separate movements with competing visions. Shekau's faction continued its extreme violence and rigid control. The newer branch focused on gaining local support, offering basic services in areas it influenced, and portraying itself as more disciplined. To civilians, both posed danger, but the rivalry between them added new uncertainty. The Nigerian military adapted as well. Under President Muhammadu Buhari, command centers were moved to the northeast to bring decision-makers closer to the battlefield. With support from neighboring countries and international partners, Nigeria expanded the use of surveillance technology and air reconnaissance. Humanitarian corridors were created to deliver food and medicine to isolated communities. Despite these efforts, the humanitarian crisis remained severe. Millions of people were displaced. Entire generations grew up in temporary camps in Maiduguri, Yola, and neighboring countries. In these camps, children played among tents while aid trucks passed by. Many had lost parents or siblings. Aid workers described classrooms made of sticks and tarps where teachers wrote on pieces of plywood. These children, born in the shadow of conflict, knew little of the world beyond it. Every story was marked by pain. A mother searching for a missing son. A farmer returning to land overtaken by weeds. A teacher opening a school only to find most of the children gone. The scars of the conflict were visible in ruined towns and in the faces of survivors. The economic toll was devastating. Before the conflict, the Lake Chad region had been a center of trade and agriculture. Fishermen, herders, and traders moved goods across borders. As the fighting intensified, roads became blocked and entire industries collapsed. The lake, once a symbol of life, became an area of fear. Boats risked being seized by armed groups hiding among the islands. With livelihoods destroyed, families depended almost entirely on humanitarian assistance. By 2017, security forces regained control of many urban areas, but rural regions remained contested. The group, now operating in small mobile units, launched quick raids on villages, stealing supplies and disappearing into the forests of Sambisa or the marshes of Lake Chad. Their aim shifted from holding territory to surviving. During this period, the government introduced rehabilitation and reintegration programs. Former members who surrendered were enrolled in de-radicalization centers, where counselors and scholars worked to replace extremist beliefs with peaceful teachings. Some participants later spoke publicly about how poverty, manipulation, and fear had drawn them into the movement. Their testimonies provided insight into how such groups recruit and sustain themselves. Still, skepticism persisted. Many communities found it difficult to forgive, especially those who had lost loved ones. Humanitarian organizations emphasized that justice and reconciliation must go hand in hand. Without both, the cycle of violence could continue. As the years passed, the influence of Boko Haram declined, but its presence remained. Shekau continued releasing audio and video messages until 2021, when reports emerged that he had died after a confrontation with a rival faction. His death marked the end of an era, but not the end of the conflict. Several offshoots continued to operate, adapting to new realities. By this time, the region had endured more than a decade of turmoil. Tens of thousands of lives have been lost. More than 2 million people were displaced within Nigeria, and hundreds of thousands fled to neighboring countries. Humanitarian agencies described it as one of the world's most overlooked crises. The social consequences were profound. Families were separated, education interrupted, and an entire generation faced the challenge of rebuilding their lives. Women who escaped captivity faced stigma in their communities and were often left to raise children born during captivity. Young men returned to destroyed villages and uncertain futures. Relief workers described the heavy emotional burden carried by survivors. Many lived in fear of returning home, haunted by memories of attacks. The trauma was invisible but widespread. Yet within the hardship, small signs of recovery appeared. In towns such as Bama and Gwoza, schools reopened. Teachers returned to classrooms. Children once again sat on wooden benches and listened to lessons. Markets revived with makeshift stalls. Roads that were once deserted slowly filled with motorcycles and carts. Life returned, fragile but determined. The government and international partners invested in rebuilding infrastructure. Roads, bridges, hospitals, and schools were repaired. Solar panels replaced destroyed power lines in some areas, bringing light back to communities that had long lived in darkness. Programs promoting agriculture and skills training helped families rebuild their livelihoods. Progress, however, remained uneven. Remote areas still faced insecurity, and new attacks occasionally broke months of calm. Each resurgence reminded communities that peace must be protected continuously. Yet even with progress, the truth remains difficult. Insecurity still hangs over the Northeast like a cloud that refuses to clear. Roads that were safe yesterday can become dangerous tomorrow. Villages rebuilt with hope can be emptied again in a single night. The government, despite years of effort, has not yet been able to fully end the violence. The groups that emerged from Boko Haram remain scattered across forests, islands, and border regions, adapting to every new strategy used against them. For many families, the fear never truly disappeared. Traveling between towns still requires caution. Farmers hesitate to work in distant fields. Mothers wait anxiously for children who walk long distances to school. The feeling that danger could return at any moment shapes daily life across the Northeast. This is the part of the story many outside the region do not see. It is not a clean victory or a single moment of peace. It is a long struggle that continues beneath the surface, affecting millions. A conflict that has changed form but never fully ended. A reminder that Nigeria's Northeast is still fighting to reclaim safety, dignity, and a normal life. And the biggest questions still remain. How did a movement that began in one town grow into something that challenged several nations? Why does it continue to survive more than a decade later? Who is keeping it alive? And what is the future of the region if the violence refuses to end? To understand why the insecurity persists and how the group transformed into something even more complex, we must go deeper. We must examine the factions that emerged after Shekau's death, the new strategies being used in the Lake Chad Basin, the rise of banditry across the northwest, and the shifting alliances that have reshaped Nigeria's security landscape.